Hello, welcome to a special voiceover monthly update. Believe it or not, this is simpler for me to add than captions. You may remember last month I was having trouble with these extra polygon shards, but because this problem seems hard and, it's barely noticeable, I decided to go back and finish the tileset imports first. 3DP has supported animated tiles since forever, but I've been wanting to add an importer for animated GIFs for years. GIFs. Of course, this is never simple. Here we only have frame data for the parts of the image that get updated, so of course it looks insane. After fixing that, for some reason the transparency decided to have a rave. Finally I got it importing nicely, and then the totally separate animation system on the terrain decided to stop working. Fuck it, back to the polygons. Because these are showing up like shards of glass, and they're a pain in the arse, I decided to call them shards. Judging by the way they start at the map's origin 0 point, I guessed it was probably a buffer offset problem. In 3D graphics, to draw stuff on screen, you give the graphics card a shader and then you send a vertex buffer, which is a list of numbers per point of a triangle, which the shader then turns into graphics on screen. Each of the triangle's points is called a vertex. Usually the numbers are the XYZ coordinates, UV texture offsets, maybe normals, but you can put whatever data you like in here, so long as your shader knows what to do with it. If you're smarter than me, you do this very carefully so that you always have the right number of data points for the shader. If you don't, the data gets offset and, well, you get this kind of crap. I found the problem eventually, which fixed the maps, but then map sprites stopped working. This reminded me of another problem I'd had a few years back with sprites. I remember it like it was 2021. For some reason on my Windows PC, I was getting this problem where sprite textures were appearing on other geometry. Oh no, ghosts in the Halloween map. Temporary solution back then was to add a key item to the vertexes with C's verts. So if the vertex key is in the wrong place on the shader, it doesn't draw it. This solution perhaps perfectly captures my genius. It seems the shards problem is related to the boobies problem. There's a concept in programming generally called strictness. The stricter a language, the less stuff you can get wrong before things break. Python is not a strict language and it's what I'm used to. OpenGL and the shader language GLSL are. At some point I've got confused with my vertex buffers. Some of the shaders send all the numbers in one long string, and then some of them send the data in chunks per vertex. And it turns out if you get those two messed up, the shader can't count them properly and one of two things can happen. In the first case, the shader doesn't know when to stop reading at the end of the buffer, so for instance, the sprite shader might finish its own buffer and then start reading data out of the terrain buffer. Or, in the second case, when you want to edit the middle of the buffer, you need to know if you're editing numbers or verts, or the edited data goes in the wrong place. Guess what I just traded? So, I decided to make a remix of a Vinemon track instead. See you next month.